LFC Daytrippers, brought to you by bookmakers.com.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the LFC Daytrippers. I'm Gav, that's Matt, that's Trev, and we're going to talk about football for the next 55 minutes because we are going to be out of here at 11 p.m. I'm sorry we're late. I was talking about crests and stickers you will get in a Panini football book, so we will get into that in a little bit. Matt, our native, what would you call you? What is it? A resident Canadian.
Resident Canadian?
Yeah, I had a different word there and it was definitely not going to suit. And Trev, of course, from the Anfield Index, and a guy that just tells great stories in podcast form. Trev, how are you?
I'm good, man. Nice to be with you guys. Looking forward to this.
Yeah, good stuff. Right, this is going to be a transfer show, but there's going to be a mix of other stuff thrown in there. Just because there's not a lot of transfer stuff going on. So I thought I'd just fill in the hour with random shit, which I love doing. I really, really love doing. Like, subscribe, comment, turn your notifications on, so when we go live, you know all about it. And you aren't messaging me 3 times a day going, is there a show tonight? So that's the only reason to hit the bell notification. We're going to talk about Romeo Lavia. We're going to talk about Kefran Turam. We've done centre back stuff, but you know every player, every midfielder belonging to Liverpool now is being linked with Saudi Arabia for some reason. But that's how life is at the moment. And we're just going to have a general chat around the transfer window itself, and it feels really like it's heating up now. And we're into the first week of July, so it will go a bit mental. But before we do that, Panini football sticker books. And I have a reason why I brought this up, right? It was something that happened last week. But Matt doesn't know anything about this. So he's here to be educated as much as the next person, right? Trev, you know Panini football sticker books, all right? As well as the next man. Were you a big fan of them?
Massive. And Matt, I mean, you're a younger man than myself and Gav. Match attacks, does that sound familiar to you? You know the little swap cards? That was the generation after Panini stickers. No? Not sound familiar? Anyway, yeah, they are.
Matt was probably just smoking a lot at the time.
No, it seems crazy to me that you spend the money collecting these things, because I collected hockey cards when I was a little kid. But you certainly don't peel the back off and stick them in a book. Like, how are they going to be permanent that way? You put them into nice little plastic protectors and you put them in a binder, you put them all in order.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I had.
Yeah, but that's what we done.
Crazy.
We
I
just
thought these were stickers, like you peel the back off.
But you put them in a book.
You put them in a book.
Rearrange them then?
You don't rearrange them. They're sticky. They don't go anywhere.
Yeah, it's all laid out. Yeah, it's all laid out for you. I'll tell you what, Gav. It got exciting around World Cup time. The Panini stuff. That was when I used to think big into this. I think I only ever had 2 of the club ones, but I loved getting them for the World Cup. That was the crack.
It was the crack, and you know I'm gonna come on to it. Ties in nicely with something I want to talk to in a little while. So I'll leave the World Cup books there for a minute. But the generation now, or the previous kind of half a generation ago, was all about shiny stickers. If you got shinies, they were shiny crests, they were special crests and stuff like that. And I remember as a kid, I don't think we had the shiny crests. We just had like lads in school with like piles of these with an elastic around and going through them, going, yeah, I need him. And you'd swap them and stuff like that. But the reason I bring it up is, right, last week we got contacted by an Aberdeen podcast because they were signing Reece Williams on a season-long loan. Kev went on and done half an hour or so with them. And that's what triggered it for me, because whenever I think of a Panini football sticker book, it was always English Division 1 or Premier League, and it was always Scotland as well. Always Scotland, right, was in it. And the Aberdeen crest always blew my mind, right? Honestly, it's the most simplistic thing you'd ever see. It's literally a goal post, the side of a goal post, with a football in the middle of it, and just Aberdeen written on it. And that's the reason why it come up for me. Crests, that crest in particular, I just thought that is absolutely excellent. Whoever come up with it, it's just so simplistic. But I always remember getting the Aberdeen crest and going, that's amazing. I don't know why, and that's why when I think of Aberdeen, I think of Panini football sticker book. So there you go.
I don't remember that one. I thought I remember Aberdeen being an A, or is that the current one?
I don't know. No, this was a goalpost. This was like,
wow.
Imagine looking at a goalpost from side on. So you had the post and then the stanchion that comes back to the ground, and it was just a football in the middle of it with Aberdeen written on it. It was amazing. I'm sure people know the Aberdeen crest. I might look it up now.
I googled it. That's a very cool. Yeah, it's a side-on view of the goal.
Yeah, with just the
so like
football.
If you're standing on the goal line. Yeah, with a little football in it.
Yeah, it's amazing. So there you go. That's what it is. Any crests before we move on that you just go, yeah, that is brilliant. It can be football. It can be hockey for Matt if he wants.
Well, you definitely had the shiny ones, man. You definitely, because I had them, and I
can't remember shinies.
Man, you definitely had them. I had them. Like I said, I had them, and I go back a lot further than you do. So they were rare, but you'd get like at least one or two special ones for the World Cup.
Maybe they were around.
For that reason, the shiny Brazilian one is the one that stands in my memory. Like that was the one everyone wanted to get, the Brazilian crest. Put it in the top left-hand corner, and then you had all the team afterwards. I remember filling out that 86 team.
Yes, he does go back further than me.
Yeah, that was Zico and all that. Oh, fucking amazing, man! That was that was the crack in it.
Yeah, I love the Aberdeen one, and I loved the Sampdoria one. Sampdoria one was just outrageously good.
Sampdoria kits back in the day.
Oh
wow.
Yeah, unbelievable. Matt, any crest you want to throw in there?
I'll give a shout out to my favorite hockey team, the Montreal Canadiens. They have a very beautiful logo, and also from hockey, the New Jersey Devils, to incorporate a devil's tail into the initials of the city. Both very, very well done. Both very well done.
Paul Giovanni likes Partick Thistle. Kieran Smith likes Doncaster Rovers. The Dutch shiny for France 98 was brilliant, according to Chris Brack. There was Ronan Murphy says, anyone remember Top Trumps, the football version? I probably did. Premier League Pogs, the joy of getting a shiny. Wow, Pogs! I remember them. Yeah, I remember Pogs.
What's a Pog?
Pogs were like, and I'm really sorry because this is meant to be transferred.
Circle.
No, Pogs were like little plastic circles, right? They were like, imagine something the size of a large. Do you know what it is? Do you know if you go into a really like a €2 shop or a really bargain shop and you buy the chocolate coins in the bag in the net. So imagine the biggest coin in that. So they were about that size, but they were a bit thicker. They were plastic, and they used to have things on the front and back, and you used to throw the Pogs at the wall. And if your Pog,
now you're making this shit up now.
I'm not making it up. I'm not making it up.
This in Canada. We had this in Canada.
Genuinely, like I'm not making this up. And
if people watch plastic coins at the wall, come on.
Yeah, and if it was a Pog, and if it landed near you, won the Pog off the other guy. No, and seriously, because people think I'm going out of my mind, because I done a show with Phil Casey last night, and when we were doing the show, me and Phil were discussing bike helmets with built-in indicators, right? But they can't be just on the thing; they have to be independently sticking out on the back of your helmet. So, but I haven't just continued this on. No, Pogs were definitely a thing. Glentoran was shiny in SO Club badges from the early 70s, says James Mill. This is bleeding great. Lotto AC Milan kits, says James Mill. We will get to transfer stuff. But you see, I knew this would kick off because people love all this sort of stuff. Most people watching are probably going, fuck off annoying us, will you? But we're having a lovely time. So, Trev, look up Pogs. Matt, look up the Panini football sticker books. And we will go back to some World Cup stuff in a little bit. But, transfers. So Liverpool have made 2 transfers so far coming in. So Alexis McAllister from Brighton at £35 million plus whatever, I don't know. And Dominic Szoboszlai for £60 million. Two midfielders, something we definitely needed. Trev, I think it's a fair assumption that most Liverpool fans feel that a third midfielder is needed, maybe a centre half. But this is the week where everything starts to swirl around for me. Not only where, you're seeing big deals being done, and the likes of Declan Rice is very close to Arsenal. Havertz was done last week. There's big names, big money, Mason Mount. And then you have the stories filling the column inches between these transfers happening, where it just goes absolutely mental. Where are you on Liverpool at the moment? Are you reading any of these stories? Because I think if you are reading them, you're mental.
I'm reading them dispassionately because that's the only way to do it. I actually do a transfer pod for Anfield Index on a regular basis, and if you told me that I'd be doing that a couple of years ago, I'd have laughed at you, because I was always famously detached from transfer season. But I'm just in it now, and I'm loving it for the crack. I was having a chat last night. I missed the Thuram stuff that happened. And I just said, here, what happened with Thuram? And Andy was on Twitter being bold, very bold indeed, with me. So I was still none the wiser after that. But Gav, we got two, from what I can see, world-class footballers for the price of Declan Rice, less than the price of Declan Rice. Yeah. I would say we are in a very good nick. Now, the third one, I'm sorry, it's essential. And if that sort of bothers certain tippity-top Reds, I couldn't give a shit. The third one's essential. And if we lose Thiago or Fabinho, say, to Saudi, then we need a fourth. It's that simple, I think. And I don't think you can argue with the numbers. We needed them last summer. We didn't fucking do it. We needed defenders a previous campaign. We didn't do it. So it needs to get done.
Yeah. It's Aiden. I'm sensing some animosity of Aiden. He says, Gav, just shut up and let us know your inside knowledge on the transfer news that John Henry faxes you every morning. I'll DM you, Aiden. I'm only the Aiden sound. But I was reading some stuff today, Matt, right? And this thing came out from a journalist where it said Liverpool won't look into the market for a third midfielder unless one leaves, right? And the minute I read that, I was horrified. I was like, hold on. And people accuse me of defending the club every which way but loose. Not true. But I read that and I went, no, we're drifting back into fucking, look at all the numbers we have, isn't it fucking great? And it's not. Do you know what I mean? Like, I understood last season when we were sitting with 9 midfielders and we're like, we can't sign a 10th one. We just can't. You know what I mean? As much as we want to, 10, 11 midfielders is a scandalous amount of players to have in your squad in midfield, right? But when I read this today, Matt, I was like, no, people are missing the fucking point here. And I seen somebody on Twitter saying, actually, look, what's the big deal? We're after getting 2 in, and we more or less ran with 6 last year anyway. That's the whole point, isn't it, man? We ran with 6 last year, right? And them 6 could not do it, all right? And even if you bring in the 2 we brought in, which if it brings you to 8, if you lose a Thiago or whatever, 8 is not enough, because those 6 that were there, age, fatigue, legs, form, all over the fucking place. And we can't expect 2 lads to come in here, Matt, and just go, oh, we have them 2 now. It will improve, I think, the 6 around them, but not enough where you don't bring a third in, Matt. Like, it shouldn't be dependent on getting someone out, because if you bring in 1 more, you're left with the exact same amount of midfielders as you had last season, but you have 3 there that are dependable, will turn up, will play. Those 3 last season didn't. Milner done his best, Oxlade-Chamberlain, our favour, and Keita a little bit the same before the end. It has to be a third one, Matt, regardless of who goes out. And I agree with Trev. If a fourth one goes out, or if one goes out, you probably need 4.
Yeah, I probably won't go that far. So you say you catch it a little bit. I mean, I would have to be accused of it even more than you, of being a tippity-top Red, because I was the guy last summer that said, look at the numbers. Like, we have enough midfielders. And I was proven unbelievably wrong. So I'm not going to get fucking...
No, we had enough numbers-wise.
Right, and that doesn't matter. Like,
but the makeup of them just wasn't right.
Exactly. I focused too much on the sheer number of bodies that were there and not what we were going to be able to rely on extracting from those people. And fool me once, it'll never happen again, because Chamberlain and Keita are gone. They're just gone. We don't have to worry about them letting us down again. But I think, especially with Naby Keita, the big thing that hurt us last year was that we had the extremes. We had the 30-year-old midfielders and we had the 19-year-old midfielders, and we didn't have those guys in the middle. And what we've already done with our business so far this window is we've added 2 immediate starting first 11 midfielders that are in that age range that you want them to be, in that 22 to 26 year age range. Guys that have good injury records, guys that played 70 to 80% of the available minutes for their teams in the last few seasons. These are guys we're going to be able to rely upon. So I find myself drifting back into the doing the maths and looking at the number of minutes that are there. Because I said last year before the season that Harvey Elliott and Curtis Jones would more than make up the minutes of Naby Keita and Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain if we were able to get rid of them. We weren't able to get rid of them, and Jones and Elliott more than covered the minutes.
But Jones only covers the minutes towards the back end of the season.
He does, and Elliott only covers the minutes towards the start of the season. So basically, you can almost put them together, and that's one fairly consistent starter.
Yeah.
You know, between those 2 players, you're looking at somebody that's starting 24 to 28 games, you know, is there for 70, 75% of the total league minutes. If you have more than 5 or 6 of those guys, there's just not enough minutes to go around. And so I would like to see us bring another player in, and I would be okay with it being more of a, and I know you don't like the term, but more of a project player. I'm totally on board with the idea of somebody like Romeo Lavia that won't be needing to be playing every game or the majority of the games. You bring in somebody like Alexis McAllister, and it's very hard to sell to that player that they're not going to be competing for that starting position. You know, he's at the prime of his career. He needs to be playing every week. A guy like Romeo Lavia, he's only 18 years old. He still has some time to develop and win that job. You know, you can give him the carrot, like the opportunity to go and win that job. You know, put Fabinho out of the job. Put Jordan Henderson out to pasture. Prove that they're done and we don't need them anymore and we can move on from them. But I'm concerned about restricting the developments of the players we already have on the books, because everybody likes shiny, fancy new signings. And somebody in the Telegram chat was saying that if Curtis Jones was playing for the French team or playing for, you know, the Ukrainian team at the U21, putting in performances like he's putting in for England, we would be over the moon if we were linked with a player like that for, you know, 30, 35, 40 million euros. Yeah. We already own Curtis Jones. You know, I don't want to be throwing out what we currently have, players that I like that think could have a future with the team. I'm a big fan of Harvey Elliott. I don't want to see more players coming in that limits the ability of Harvey Elliott to blossom into the player that I think he could be, because we already own him.
But that's not the way. I don't think that's the way to look at it. Because if you don't bring in, and this is only my opinion, if you don't bring in a third one, okay, what happens is the third person isn't going to stump his progression. The third one is there to help his progression. And what I mean by that is that instead of pinning everything, and this is what happens in Liverpool's midfields, because if you take Thiago, you take Henderson, and you take Fabinho, we know what's going to happen. We have a good idea what's going to happen. They're going to lose form, right? All players lose form, but these fall off a cliff last season. Henderson falls off a cliff. Fabinho falls off a cliff. Thiago's out injured too much, right? If you bring these players in, you are not asking Curtis Jones and Harvey Elliott to be the next men up over a 15 to 20 game period, because Henderson, Fabinho, Thiago, or whoever else is not there. This is the reason you bring them in and you say, I have 9 players here for 3 positions, really. But it's all about the level they're at in the squad. And I don't feel we've enough at a top level to allow these fall down a road.
That was a problem last year, that people got caught up in the numbers. Klopp was the one who was leading the charge with his various interviews, where he was smiling and sort of sneering at fans who were saying that we needed more midfielders, because, you know, it was like, look at the amount that we have. The problem with the amount that we had was availability. Anyone could tell you that they weren't going to be available. And that's the biggest single thing when it comes to choosing personnel. We don't want any more sick notes.
Especially when our midfield, Trev, especially when our midfield is so key in what we do.
Exactly. And that's why, you know, it was so porous so often last year. And, you know, we were looking at a child, Bajcetic, coming in there playing way too many minutes and being relied on way too much. I think it's fantastic that that kid was able to perform to the level he was able to perform to. I've high hopes for him. I've high hopes for Curtis Jones being able to get a spell in and out of the team in one of the 8 positions. Fantastic. But if we do not get a solid defensive midfielder, whether it is a Lavia type or someone else, a lot of the ones we've been linked with, Ugarte, others have gone elsewhere. Caicedo is the one we all want, unless you're mental, you want Caicedo on your team, but that's not doable for us. And I think it's pretty much solid with Chelsea now. That's the profile of player we need. Someone who's young, fairly indestructible, and can do that job and put pressure on Fabinho. Because who knows? Maybe Fab will react to that and have a fantastic season, pick himself right back up from where he was form-wise, certainly this first half of last season. And that's the kind of tough at the top headache you want Jurgen to have, man.
Yeah, I'm just... You see, I don't want to fall in. I said it the other day. I don't want us to fall into the trap of forgetting every midfielder we have, because that's ridiculous. You can't just because you've signed these two forget everyone else and go, "Oh, them two are definitely starting every week," and they may do, but you need to remember who's behind them and what they can do. And if you actually look at the midfielders we have, right? I think we've signed 2 magnificent midfielders. I think we've 3 with brilliant potential in Elia, Jones, and Bajcetic, and they all have to find their own way to reach that potential. They're at different stages. Some of them are trying to fit into positions. Some of them are just trying to progress in positions. And then you have Thiago, Henderson, and Fabinho. And listen, 2 of them are amazing servants to Liverpool. One of them is one of the most beautiful looking football players you'll ever come across in the way he plays football. But at the end of the day, right, if you lose Thiago, Henderson and Fabinho, you are left with Bajcetic, Elia, Jones, McAllister and Szoboszlai. And that's not enough. And and we all go on about looking back on history. History tells you these lads aren't getting any younger. The injuries, although Thiago averages about 30 games a season for Liverpool, but that's brilliant. If you bring in another one and you say, we've 3 there, mate, it's absolutely fine. We've 3 there that are animals. And then the rest fit in around it. Henderson plays less games. Fabinho doesn't have to play them all because you've Bajcetic and maybe a Lavia there. Thiago doesn't have to play them all. But again, McAllister doesn't have to play them all because he get a rest if we need it. I keep going on about it. City do this all the time. They'll find a 3-game bank somewhere before Christmas and somewhere around February, March, where they will switch it up, freshen everybody, and they're ready to go. And it just goes seamlessly because the quality is there. And I think sometimes this summer we may get into this trap of them 3 that are gone. One of them was very old, but still a brilliant servant. 2 of them just weren't fit for purpose. We've got 2 in now. Everything's fine. It's not. It's not only the lads that weren't available last season in Ox and Keita. It's the lads that were left to have to do the job. And when it came down to do the job, they weren't there. They just don't have it.
And you need quality cover.
Yeah, that's where I am with it. I don't want to fall into this thing of we got 2 great ones that more or less makes up for the 3 that we let go. No. That's where my worry is. Do you know where I'm coming from with this, Matt? Like, I know you're all about the numbers and the amount of players, and so am I. But we put ourselves in a position where we had 10 and couldn't do anything about it, right? Or 9.
Yeah, there's
10. Sorry, with Mello.
It's a false 10, though. It's such a false 10.
But Matt,
call it 9. 13
right?
Minutes
So let's call it. Yeah, well, Mello is the 10th, right? So let's call it 9.
Yeah.
So now you're in a 6. You're saying 6, right? If we knew we had 9 great midfielders, we'd be fine. With those 2 in now, that's a false 8. That's a false 8 because out of the 8, I don't think there's enough there to play out an entire season and be ready, right? Or B, just at the stage of their career where they can command the Liverpool midfield the way we want to. That's where I am with it. I don't know, like, maybe are we asking for too much? I don't think we are. I think 3 out, 3 in. What's the problem?
Yeah, I'm not seeing where the minutes are fitting in. Like, I think, and I know we're going to come to it later in the show, I think we're going to get an out in the team, and that changes everything. Like, I think we're going to bring another midfielder in this summer, but I think we're going to be losing one. Okay. So that kind of skews things a little bit, because the big question mark is over Fabinho. Like, I think you're feeling on whether we desperately need to be signing a new defensive midfielder, whether it's Romeo Lavia or fill in the blank with somebody else, is how you feel Fabinho will go. If you think he's done, washed, over the hill, then we've got a glaring need at 6, because it's either Bacedic, who that might not even be his best position, repurposing Alexis McAllister into there, using Jordan Henderson, or relying on a player in Fabinho who you think is gone. I don't think Fabinho's gone. I think in the end of the season, when the rest of the team started to play better around him, he started to look like he still had some of the attributes that made us love Fabinho in seasons past. And I think if we have a midfield 3 that lines up, and you've got Alexis McAllister on the left and Szoboszlai on the right, I think Fabinho is going to look much more like the Fabinho that we adored at that 6. But I can totally understand if somebody looked at the bulk of last season and the performances that Fabinho put in and are just, they can't see it.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, some of these translated tweets might be of interest then.
Trev, yeah, I know you were saying if one leaves, you need one more in. If one leaves, you probably need 4. But let's go down I agree with you, but let's go down the more realistic route when it comes to Liverpool of, one comes in and one goes out. And what they do is they kind of go a halfway house between what me and Matt are arguing here, that they say, right, let's say a Henderson goes and they bring in a Lavia, or a Fabinho goes, or a Thiago. One of those 3 go and you bring in a Lavia. Are you comfortable with that? Because I think, I don't want to see a Jones or an Elliott go. I think that makes no sense, either on a parent or a loan. Nothing's being said about that, Trev, and it's not being suggested in any way. But are you all right if we turn around and say, listen, we're not doing 9, we're doing 8, but we're removing somebody that is probably falling down the pecking order, is aging, hasn't been on form, whatever, injury, blah blah blah, and we're bringing someone in that, like you said, is a bit indestructible?
If we don't bring in a specialist defensive midfielder, what we're looking at is another compromise season where you're going to have Henderson doing the job for a while, Fabinho doing the job for a while, and we're going to have to be keeping our fingers crossed that they are both fit
and budgeted
and improve. Well, yeah, but again, it's a big ask for a comparative child. So you're fluting around between those 3, and you're hoping they're both fit and in form. And availability and performance were pretty low for most of our midfielders last season, and the availability is the big one. So that's why I just think it's an absolute must. Now, an awful lot of people are saying we absolutely must get a centre half as well, a left-sided centre half. And if we got in a really good defensive midfielder, I'd be willing to sort of push on and take a chance that we'd have enough. If it came down to that, if you were offering me, Gav, the chance to get a really good defensive midfielder in to really put Fab under pressure and maybe bring him on to bigger heights, maybe have him as a guy who's understudying Fab for a while because Fab's form goes right back up to the top. That's great. That would be my preference if it was either or. But I kind of think we need both. And I really do think it's a matter of getting lads who are going to be available. It's really that simple.
Yeah. It's, look, Romeo Lavia is the one linked at the moment. Southampton won 50 million quid, and I think they've asked for a huge amount of money for Liverpool as well. And I think Newcastle might have backed off that deal because Southampton are just gone. Southampton are obviously in a financial position where they can go, listen, we've gone down, we're absolutely fine. We have good assets here, and we want our price. And they're well within their rights, because when you see the amount of money being splashed around, right, they're gone into the Championship, but that doesn't make a difference to the quality of the player. If you want them, and you want them in the Premier League, and you want to win titles, and you want, it's relevant. It's only relevant to what you want to do. You know what I mean? If you want a player because you want to stay up, he's not going to be worth that much. But if you want a player because you want to win a title or cup competitions, well then that's his market value. And the likes of Declan Rice are 105 million, and Enzo Fernandez before him are 100 and I think it was £6 million. That's what the market is. So Southampton are well within their rights. But look, we're gonna have to wait and see. Kefren Thuram, people are saying it's gone quiet on him. I don't really believe that. Because I think there might have been a lot of groundwork there. People are saying because we signed Szoboszlai, oh no, we've done Szoboszlai, so we're not going to do this, lad. I wouldn't be too sure, because Liverpool are being very, very, very tight-lipped on what they've done so far this season, or this pre-season. Sorry, Matt, I want to go back to sticker books, right? Before we move on, because
I just can't believe you didn't ever want to rearrange the players.
But they're not
like,
stickers if you rearrange them.
Yeah, but that was kind of the joy of hockey cards, was that you could put them in alphabetical order, or the order the cards were in,
Oh my God.
or by team,
Okay,
or
so
by position.
so like,
maybe I had a little
just
OCD
go
when I
wild
was
and change the order of them.
No, but like at the end of the tournament, you collected all these stickers. You didn't want to put them in of like your top 11 of the players for World Cup 90 and be able to remove your little sticker guys and go like, oh, wouldn't it have been amazing to have this guy here from West Germany and playing with this guy here? But you can't, because they're all stuck to a page. I don't know. As a little kid, like,
but
I
you can't
spent
go
money
anywhere
on
in you then.
like that. But
you can't go anywhere in you then. But anyway, the reason I've done this is I've brought up sticker books again because, and I want to tie it in with the 1990 World Cup is because I think I read something the other day where it might be the 33rd anniversary of Ireland against Romania in the World Cup in Genoa. It might be have just gone or it's on the way here. I just seen something the other day. It was a tweet. I kind of read over it. But Trev, the 1990 World Cup is famous for two things. One, the best World Cup of all time, okay, if you're an Irish person. And two, the sticker book that came with the 1990 World Cup is still to this day the best sticker book you will ever come across. It was a binder which, when you completed it, it had to be about 10 inches thick. I had classic goals in it, everything about it, Trev. Like, it just makes it the best World Cup for me. The sticker book alone makes it the best World Cup for me.
Yeah, it was, because we were there and we were good.
Phil Casey was
at the World Cup in 90.
Yeah.
I thought it was 94 he was.
No, he was England against Ireland in, I want to say, Cagliari or Palermo. He was there.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
It was such a good tournament. Now I'm gonna let you in on something here. I was very poor, Gav. Unlike yourself and Matt there, who are clearly high flyers, comfortable. I see your bike in the background there, Gav. Yeah. That's a fucking cool bike.
I only got new spokes on it there during the week.
That's a gift. That's a gift from Phil.
That Phil bought me that bike. We're going cycling up the mountains now during the week.
You lads are in a different economic bracket to me, but I couldn't have dreamt of filling that thing. But my mate did, the fucker, because he was well off. Yeah. And it was, you're right, a monster. And I actually just enjoyed taking a flick through the completed thing at the end. It was class, man. Yeah. And it's like, as far as souvenirs go, it doesn't actually get any better.
It was a joke how good it was.
Yeah.
It was
the perfect souvenir.
So what he done in it was, at the back of it was the sticker book. There was it 24 teams in that World Cup? I think it might have been 24 teams in that World Cup. 24 seems about right, because it was 6 groups of 4 and then third place you could get through and all.
Yeah.
So 24 teams. So that was at the back. Group A, Group B, right through to whatever, E and F, whatever it is, the 6th one. But at the front of the book, which more or less made up 2/3 of it actually, was the history of the World Cup from 1930 right through to 1986. And each World Cup had its own section. And when you flicked on it, it would tell you all the results, the classic goals, but they actually done diagrams of the goals. Like this fella ran here and there was arrows going everywhere. And then they had classic photos of Maradona in 86 against Belgium.
Mario Kempes as well.
Yeah, it's a joke of a book. And
Gav,
I had it.
Can I check your nerd knowledge here? And right. Matt as well. Right. So, first World Cup.
Yes, sorry. Darren Dunbar says was Gullit on the cover of it. The cover of it was Ruud Gullit against Chris Hughton at Euro 98 or Euro 88, and Chris Hughton is standing. Chris Hughton is standing on Ruud Gullit's foot as they're battling down the wing. Yes, you're correct, Darren Dunbar. Go
on. World Cup 1930, first one. Who was it?
Uruguay.
Oh, that's good, lads. What other year did they win it in?
1950, I think, was it?
Oh, absolute football nerds I'm surrounded by. It's fantastic. Yeah, cheers.
Yeah. Oh, Gav loves a quiz. Gav loves a quiz.
I love a quiz. except when other people are hosting them and they stitch me up. But No, I just wanted to give the 1990 World Cup a mention and sticker books and stuff like that. So,
Just wait, Gav. Ireland's going to qualify. You're going to get drawn into a
it'll
group
never
with
be the
Canada.
same.
You
It'll
guys
never
are
be the
going to be
same.
able to
Look,
all come over.
We qualified in 94. We qualified in 94, and because it was in America, we took over the place. Like our first game was Giant Stadium against Italy. I think there was 90,000 people in the stadium. 80,000 were Irish. It was insane. We qualified in 2002. That's the whole Roy Keane thing. And we should have beaten Spain. We should have fucking beaten Spain. And I think it was the second round game. We would have got a quarter final against South Korea, I think. And we could have went so far in that. Damien Duff was literally the best player in the world for about 3 weeks. It was insane how good he was. He rocked up. He wore the number 9. And he was like, what's going on here? I'm playing up front, lads. And he was just everywhere. Like, he started up front and just played everywhere. And no one could get near him. And you're laughing, man. Go and watch the compilation of Damien Duff versus Spain at the 2002 World Cup. And I mean, Puyol and all the boys are chasing him around like fucking Egypts because they don't know what he's up to.
And if we'd had Keane as well, oh my God.
Yeah, if we'd have had Roy Keane, yeah, we missed penalties. We should have beaten Spain that night. But anyway, that's probably for another night. But before we finish up, the transfer window itself, right? We've spoken about Sorry, I want to ask you about the centre-half stuff. And we've done a thing on centre-halves, but just quickly, Matt and then Trev. Matt, there's an awful lot of talk around Levi Colwill at Chelsea. Now, Trev is saying that, so I say was fairly solid to Chelsea. I believe that, and I think it's actually he's going to end up being a make weight in the deal, going the other way to Brighton. But is that the sort of centre-half signing you want to see? Like, that to me is a little bit project, even at possibly 50 million.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I can't claim to have a definitive view on, what Levi Colwill is going to turn into. But if people at the club think that he has that ceiling, like if his ceiling is to hit, the border of world class, then he's worth whatever value you can get him for. Because the opportunity to sign a player like that comes along maybe once or twice in their career. You have to pay the $75 million for Van Dijk, because if you don't get him that January, by the time the summer comes around, the price might be 90 million, or he might have had his head turned and go somewhere else. So if it's a player like Colwill, then you just kind of have to work around it. But I'm not sure, because I don't think, and again, I told you this the last show we did, my optimism is returned because we're on the brink of the players reporting for spring training camp. So I'm back into full belief in the team, but I'm not ready to give up on the idea that Virgil van Dijk can play a large majority of the minutes this season. Everybody knows he played way too much last year. We over-relied on him. So we do need to have the ability of cycling him out. I think the Europa League helps out a lot with that. I wouldn't care if Virgil plays only league games until the turn of the year. Like, doesn't need to play in the League Cup or in the Europa League at all. Just Premier League games he can focus on, and which is effectively one game a week, which he should be able to play every one of those league games. If we're concerned that Virgil van Dijk is not going to return to the level that he's at, then I think we need to move forward the search for a replacement for Virgil to this summer. But if the market's not there, and it doesn't seem like it, with the exception of Josko Gvardiol, which he might be Man City bound, he might just be out of our price range, and Levi Colwill, who might not be made available for sale. I think we could afford Colwill. I think if Chelsea was willing to sell him to us, I think the price that they would agree to, I think we would be happy to pay if he's that type of player. You'd be talking maybe 60, 65 million, because it can't be much more than that. Like, it certainly can't be more than what they paid, let's say, for Wesley Fofana, a couple seasons ago. And I think that was 80 million or 82 million, so something ridiculous.
Yeah, 80 million.
You're not going to break the transfer record for most expensive defender on Levi Colwill coming off of one decent season with Brighton. If we don't think if the club doesn't think the need is there to have Van Dijk's replacement in-house for this season, I'm okay with us. I think we need to bring a center half in. I just think, like, more than another midfielder, I think the next signing through the door in terms of importance has to be a defender, whether that's a right-sided defender, a left-sided defender. I just want another body in there, because the worries that we all legitimately had about the midfield and not being available, I think we can just transpose all of those worries onto our defenders now. Okay. And if we lose one of them, we're in serious trouble. We might not even have Nat Phillips by the time next season kicks off again. And that's worrying, like, our 5th and 6th choice defenders might not be there, and then you got to worry about your 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th picking up injuries, and then you're in a whole mess of trouble. But I'm okay with getting a player that isn't even a project player, isn't even a finished article. Somebody like, I really like Nathan Collins. I think it's a good move for him to go to Brentford, but I would have been okay with that. Somebody that's not going to demand a starting position, that might be able to blossom into that type of player, or in a year or two when the market's changed, and who knows what defenders come up in the next 18 months. You know, the next Virgil van Dijk might come up in the next 18 months. The next William Saliba might be there. The next Levi Colwill might be there in 18 months. And we don't know about those players yet because they just haven't had the time to come to the surface. Of having somebody like, I think Max Kilman would work. Plays left side of center half. I did, until Saudi Arabia helped him out, thought that you might be able to get him out of Wolves for a fairly decent price. That might not be the case anymore. But somebody like that, that's capable, experienced in the league, and then in 2 years you sell them. Even if you just break even on them. You know, not every player has to have a long-term future. As much as I personally would like that, I want every player that puts the shirt on to succeed for Liverpool. I want them all to be world-class world beaters. But at the end of the day, sometimes we just have to be able to move players on. And if you do that in the right way with a player like Max Kilman, Mark Gahey, Nathan Collins is off the board now, that are homegrown, it allows you in January or next summer to look at moving on Joe Gomez. Because I feel right now we're definitely handcuffed that we're keeping Joe Gomez. He's not going anywhere just to fill quotas and stuff like that. And, you know, being a leader on the team. So,
well, Jerry Tenfield's Hincapié would be perfect. Left centre back of today or left back of the future. Only 22. Super Dizzle 84. We can ask about Tamori. Guy from Palace is Chris Brack. I think he's in the 50 million range as well. But Trev, there's a lot of angles you could come at this, isn't there? Because, you know, I don't think our midfield job is finished this year. We're going to have to look at it again next year with the players we have, the ages they're at, and the stages they're at in their career, and the amount of miles on the clock, etc., etc. I think if we sort our midfield out, I think it actually does help our defenders, because I think they were just overrun last season by being, like you said, it's such a porous midfield. But at the same time, we can't just sit around and go, listen, the midfield is sorting the defence, and then if that falls off a fucking cliff, we're in the same situation defensively as we were in midfield, or we are in midfield. Where are you on it? Because I honestly, I'm of the opinion if you're signing a centre half, the Colwell one makes loads of sense. I'm not saying go out and buy him, because I haven't seen enough of him. But that sort of profile makes loads of sense, because he comes in, he's of a certain age, he's a little bit of experience, he can definitely play in the games you don't want Virgil to play in. But he might be the heir to the throne, you know, in 18 months, 2 years, where he starts to play more and more. And he's dependable. He can play left-hand side. There's just so many angles here, Trev. You can look at this centre-half situation.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are getting hung up on which footed the player is. I know I saw a big chat about Mark Gay there about, you know, he's right-footed, but he can play either side. Inacio is someone that we haven't mentioned yet, who's been mentioned a lot with us, and Levi Colwill, who has a great Premier League record and seems to have a huge ceiling, is someone that, you know, you would think is very much an us buy, but of course there's going to be a huge premium for that kid, and whether or not we be capable or willing to pay it is another thing. Part of me is wondering, is that going to be the thing that actually influences what our last bit of business in the midfield is? I mean, I wonder how committed we are to this new system of play, where we have Trent doing Trent things in midfield. And if that is the case, you could see us looking at a left side centre half as an absolute priority, someone to put Robbo under pressure, who, you know, didn't exactly have his greatest season ever. Not many did last campaign. So there's an awful lot of, as far as I can see, there's an awful lot of chit chat about needing a left-sided centre half, come full-back, come wing-back, sort of utility player. And that, to me, makes a lot of sense. And if we were to get one of those of a comparatively high level and a DM of some sort of standing, I think that's an 8 or a 9 out of 10 window for me. I'd be so happy with that. I think we're getting back to where we need to be. And as you say, Gav, it's not finished, because I think there's a real chance that none of the three lads go. That Thiago stays around and he goes on a free next year. That Henderson might never leave, because why would he? And that Fabinho will stay around this season for sure, at least, and maybe decide to take the Saudi shilling next year. So there's a real opportunity, a real chance, I think, opportunity that they all stay. That's where my worry comes in that I mentioned earlier on, that we think we've done it now. We've got lads to sort of be starters, stroke, stepping out in cups and stuff, first teamers, two great lads, and then we can just rotate the six between Fab and Hendo and Bajcetic. I will be grand. And that's the worry I have, because I don't think we'll be grand with that. And I think it's fallen into the same old trap that we've fallen into a couple of different windows, where we take for granted that lads will be available and in form, and they aren't.
Yeah. I just think, as a club, we've had to bite the bullet this summer. We've had to do, what's right, really, in getting a few midfielders in. But bigger picture, I look at it and I say to myself, well, next summer you're definitely looking at these three of these midfielders again, and you're assessing them. We've let three go this summer for different reasons, and we've three, in my opinion, when you go to next summer, one's out of contract in Thiago, and two of the other lads just have loads of miles in their legs at Liverpool, and that's another midfield job for next summer. And I'm all for doing stuff in midfield, but I don't want us to fall into the same trap defensively that we fell into with midfield, where we went, are we 4 centre halves? It's all good. We're just counting people. And for me, Matip's in the last year of his contract. Nothing's being said on that. Gomez just hasn't looked the same since his last big injury. Just has not looked the same. Virgil, in fairness, Virgil comes back and has a brilliant season after his injury. Last season, I think it just took its toll on him. And I think the fact, mix that in with the fact, like you said, our midfield was just being ran through. I don't think it helped anyone. You mentioned Robertson. I don't think it helped him either. And definitely not Trent. So I'd like to see us do something where we don't get to next summer. And I know that's a long way away, but I don't want to get to next summer going, oh, that's just 2 more midfielders going, and we need to get another 2 in. And we have to do these centre-backs as well. And it just feels like, I feel like we've done 2 in midfield. I think if you do 4 now and 3 next summer, it feels an awful lot healthier than 3 now and 4 next summer, if you get me. I want the bigger number to be now. The bigger number to be now. Because I'll tell you why, and Matt, you're making faces at me.
I mean? Don't see how 4 and 3 and 3 and 4 are not the same thing.
Because I'll tell you why. Because the squad needs that shock into it now. It needs that shock into it right now, and you can just mould it next year with 3. 3 feels like a lovely number. 3 this summer doesn't feel enough, and it feels like if it goes bad, will 4 shock it enough next summer? The bigger work needs to be done now for me, and kind of has to be done. You know what I mean? If you're turning over 7 players between defence and midfield, I'd rather do the higher number now. While you're in this period where it's openly, everyone agrees to the fact that it needs to be done now. Because I think we'll end up, if we don't 3 now, we'd feel like we go through a season going, we just haven't done enough. We cry again about it next summer, and then when you're bringing 4 in next summer, it's like, fuck, we've another load to do. Do you know what I mean? It just seems to drag on. Get the bigger one done now, and if you have to do 3 next summer and 3 the summer off, that's fine. That turnover is fine. But I just feel the bigger number has to be done now. Go on, Matt, sorry.
I agree. Do you think, though, that you should, like, as a club, they should rip the Band-Aid off and look to get 2 out the door and go with bringing 5 in this summer?
No.
Because I am not against the idea of us taking an offer anywhere in the range of 18, 25 million if we can get for Thiago. I would sell.
Yes, but the thing is, if you sell him, right, you can't, like, if you were to sell him and bring in a centre back, makes no sense. If you were to sell him and bring in a Lavia or a Kefran Turam. I'm all right with that. I'm okay with that. But begrudgingly okay with that, because I think Thiago, if you're giving me 30 games, 25 games from Thiago next season, knowing who you've brought in on top and is there, I think I'm absolutely more comfortable with that than I've only 25 games of Thiago here and Henderson and Fabinho running in fucking treacle come mid-November, December. That's where the issue is. It's all about who you have there. And at the moment, I don't think you lose Thiago and go, that's absolutely fine what's there. That's just where I am. It's going to be interesting. It's definitely picking up. We're in the first week of July. It's definitely 100% going to go a bit berserk, I think, now that the 21s is finished with. And yeah, I think it's going to go a bit mad. Before we go, Matt, is there anything else you would like to bring up before you go?
No, I don't think so. I think everybody just needs to calm down. We're kind of talking about this before we went on, of like, the window's actually only been open for 3 days and people are already losing their minds that we're not doing enough. So, it's I think we might see Liverpool sit back now that the Thuram stuff seems like it's kind of cooled off. According to David Lynch, it's 100% not happening. So you can just get that idea out of your head. So now I really want to see Thuram come in just so that he has to eat a gigantic serving of humble pie. But I wouldn't mind seeing Liverpool just sit back, keep their cards close to their chest, and let some of the other teams just go mental for a week or so, because it feels like money's being thrown around like it has absolutely no value. And with the exception of a couple teams in this league, it still does have value for some teams. So, okay.
Trev, is there anything going on in this whole wild world that you'd like to bring up to the table before we leave?
So I'm just going to repeat what I said to you guys before our mics went live here. I just find I think people who give out about Twitter are mental, because it's the best crack ever. It, like, all human life is there, and most of it is either mental or in need of intervention. And we found ourselves looking at lads reposting and retweeting a fella today who said, we are a Mac/Dom injury, Mac and Dom, away from being right back to square one again, for fuck's sake. Now, I see stuff like that, Gav, and I don't get pissed off. That just makes me very happy, because it's funny. Because lads like that are funny. Because it's clearly, objectively, a wonderful thing that we've got two proper world-class talents in over the line. I can't wait to see these guys play for Liverpool.
So if we sign Lavia, okay, are we then a Dom/Mac/Lavia injury away from being the square one as well?
When does it ever end, brother?
No, it doesn't end.
When does it ever end? It doesn't end.
It would be like typing out the whole squad and just putting forward slashes between them all, and saying we're back to square one. Couple of things. Yeah, no, I know where you're going with that, and it is a bit mad. David Lennon wants to know, how are the tomatoes, Trev?
Oh, they're fucking super. I actually just got a few there. There'll be a photo going up later on. Because I'm the farmer.
Do you not release them at 10:30, like, way football's going to release on the
That's exactly what I should
embargoed.
Just sitting there, and people are like, Trev, do you want to watch this on the telly? Shut up. Counting down to 10:30 here, I'm just ready to send. And Paul Giovanni quite cheekily asks, Gav, you need to tell some of the prank stories with Trev. The supermarket call with Andy was outrageously brilliant.
Oh yeah. The supermarket call.
So, Trev, for Matt's benefit alone, would you like to tell him what happened when you went to the supermarket and Andy Young found out you were in the supermarket?
Between Andy Young, who I still have to forgive him for being very bold last night. He's very grumpy, Andy.
Very bold.
He's very bold, and he came on. He was very bold on Twitter last night. I hadn't a clue what was going on, but sure, he's happy with himself. He was laughing away, and he was to himself. Andy and Phil decided that it was a great idea to come up with a version of reality. Matt, I can only apologize for this. Sorry for this kind of tale here, but a version of reality where I needed, in order to get through the day. Oh no, Steve-O was involved as well.
Yeah, Steve-O was definitely involved. So just where were you when this happened?
No, I haven't. I need to give you the background. The situation is that I need an EpiPen in order to get through the day. See, this is what you need to understand, right?
Yeah. Okay.
You don't have allergies, I presume?
No, I don't need an EpiPen, Matt. But they were just, it's just the lads doing lads things. And so it was great. And I was, I let the lads know by stupidly let them know where I was, my exact location, which you can never do with either of these fuckers at any time, that I was in Costa having a coffee. And that then next thing I know, the waitress or server from Costa's coming down and asking me if I'm all right. Do I need any help? And then I told them
just out of the blue. Just out of the blue. Like.
Stupidly, I said I was going to Tesco to get away from them.
Yeah.
They rang Tesco, and there was
Tesco was a supermarket, Matt, just to let you know.
Yeah. There was an announcement put out over the Tesco supermarket asking me to come to their security booth. Yes, so the lads.
Was it something along the lines of you were allergic to strawberries or
strawberries? Was strawberries was the apparent allergy.
So they ring Tesco and they say, "Our friend is in."
They had run Costa, and the girls in Costa, I could see them looking over at me.
Yeah.
And they were talking about would they come over, and I could see there was something awkward going on. You know when someone's looking at you, you're aware of it.
Yeah.
And one of the girls came up and said, "Look, I'm not really sure what's going on here, but one of your friends is saying that you might need some help, and did you lose your EpiPen or something?" And I told the lads, fucking enough. I'm heading off. So I told them I was going to Tesco, like an idiot. They looked up the Tesco number, and I'm walking around Tesco.
Because the story I was told was that you did go to Tesco and stupidly told them you were going to Tesco. They ring Tesco and they say, "Our brother or our friend is in the store at the moment. He's allergic to strawberries and he's not in the right frame of mind. So this could end badly. Can you please go and find him?" So
no.
So
they've added to that, Gav, over the years.
And I'm all for them adding to it, by the way.
They've embellished that one.
Yeah. But no, so they're ringing Tesco and they're putting things out over the tannoy to make sure Trev is okay in shops. S. Murphy says we need to get Steve-O back on with Trev and Phil for a pod. Listen, getting hold of Steve-O and Phil are out on bikes at the moment. It's just cycling around for no reason.
Don't tell me Steve-O's a cyclist.
Oh, they're all cycling now. Phil started this like bike repair shop out his back and all. And what he's doing is he's offering to fucking fix people's bikes so they can come out cycling with him. You know, he has Steve-O down to under an hour for 20k and everything. It's all madness. Like,
yeah, he's also falling down the side of a mountain.
Yes, Phil fell down the side of a mountain. He's going down to Lochderg, I think, to do some mad. Phil's gone mad into the Ironman stuff where you run and swim and kayak, and Phil's just off his bleeding rocker. Like there's no other word for it. But yeah, they have Steve-O involved. I think they have Ray Dicko involved now. And Phil was trying to put it across me last night, like, can we get Daytrippers lycra and we can sell it to cyclists? And I was like, would you ever fuck off annoy me? Do you know, I've enough to be worried about without you fucking want me to sell lycra.
Middle-aged lads in lycra, that's what everyone needs in the world, yeah.
Yeah, Owen Book says the reunion pod, Gav, you want to. We done one of those, right? And honestly, we genuinely lost the file, right? We genuinely did lose the file because I don't know what happened. Phil had it and it went completely mental. But I promise you, we were on for about 2 hours. And if you got 8 minutes of audio out of this where it was acceptable and was not liable and wouldn't have got us arrested, that isn't, like, that's being very, very optimistic.
Is that the quiz, Gav? The quiz in Phil's house?
No, do you remember the one we done where we all met up online and we had the chat?
Oh, yeah.
And we were there about 2 hours and Nilo turned up and everything, and Nilo was just calling everybody, every name under the sun, and it was ridiculous. So, listen, I'll ask them, but like Phil probably want to be on his fucking, what you call them, the cycle, the bikes in his house. He'd probably be on the bike while he's doing it. The Peloton bike, they're all mad. Yeah. They're all mad. But anyway, that has been the LFC Daytrippers for tonight. That has been No Transfer Knowledge. That has been Trev Downey. That has been Matt. I have been Gav. Talk to you in a bit. Over and out.